Hi, this is JP LaForest from Studio JPEG. In this video, I will be doing a review of this Canon 75 to 300mm f4 to 5.6 version 3 lens. I've had this lens for about 2 years and a half, and the reason I've been holding out on doing its review is because I don't like doing negative reviews, but I figured the information should be out there a bit as a warning to potential customers, or at least if this lens does fit to what you need, at least you know what you're getting into, so you don't have any surprises like I had. So the first thing is Canon offers a couple of telephoto lenses in the same range. They have this 75 to 300mm lens, and then they have a 70 to 300 normal, and then they have a 70 to 300 L lens, but they also have this 75 to 300 in a USM model. And I'll go a bit over all these lenses to give you an idea. But basically, the image quality of this lens is pretty bad. It's very dull. The original version 1 lens was invented in the early 1990s, and this version 3 I think in the early 2000s. So really the megapixel count in the original didn't even exist. It was all film cameras, but for the version 3 the megapixel count when it was invented was around maybe 1 or 2 megapixels for a professional high quality multi-$1,000 camera. So compared to today's standards of 18 megapixel and sometimes 21, 22, 25 and things like that, I find that this lens just doesn't deliver for the cameras that we have today. Back in the day, it probably would have been fine, but in today's standard, I think it gives you images that would have been fine maybe 10 years ago. But there is sharper on the market for not that much more expensive. And that's the other thing. This lens goes for, I think, around $250 and $300. Canon also has a 55 to 250mm lens that is a tiny bit more expensive, but the image quality is better. It brings image stabilization and a whole bunch of other features that are really worth looking into. But let's keep going with this one. The one thing that is nice about this lens as far as telephoto lenses of its caliber goes is the size. Let me show you the Tamron 70 to 300mm lens. It's very noticeable, the size difference. The Tamron is longer, the diameter is bigger, and it's probably at least twice the weight. So if you're putting this on your camera all day, you're not likely to be tired as you would be with the Tamron or with a 70 to 200mm lens, for example. But that's about the only positive I can think of. The autofocus on this lens is very slow. It hunts a lot. It misses the targets quite a lot. I really don't recommend it. It's also very noisy. And the only difference really between this one and the USM version is more on the noise, because the USM is not the normal USM that we're used to. When we think of a USM lens, we think about very fast, accurate focus and no noise at all. But the USM version 3 of this lens is just more quiet, but that's it. You don't get the super fast focus. So this review applies really to both versions, and it's the same optics in both of them. And neither of them have any image stabilization or OS or VC or whatever the companies call it. So you're going to need to use super fast shutter speeds. For example, at 300mm, you need at least 1/300 of a second. And since most cameras don't have that, then you have to go up to maybe like 1/500th of a second. And, except in bright daylight, and even then, you can't always achieve that kind of shutter speed. So really, this is not really a good lens for that range either, except if you put it on a tripod. I did try stepping down the aperture to f8, f11, and f14 to see really where the image quality would get better, but unfortunately, at all the apertures, it does look soft and the images are not very pleasing. So the other part is the build quality of this lens. This lens does have a lot of plastic. The lens mount is in metal though, which is a bit surprising. And I never dropped this lens or never banged it anywhere. But here is the autofocus switch. It just fell off as I was focusing on something. So let me just put it on for a sec. I'll put it in AF mode. Alright, I drop it in here. I can flip it up and down. In AF, it does lock correctly. In manual focus, I can focus no problem at all. So it's still functional, but every time I use it, the switch falls on the ground and I have to hunt down for it. So it's one of the reasons that I upgraded to the Tamron lens. So really, if you compare it, the 55 to 250 millimeter from Canon is better optics. It has image stabilization, and build quality is a bit better. Then if you go to the 70 to 300 from Canon, that one is even better build quality. The image quality is very great. But all of those, when you focus, let me show you, the front element turns as you focus. So if you use filters, it's going to reset your settings for the filter. So what I do recommend is this Tamron lens that as you focus, nothing in front moves. So for that range, the 70 to 300 millimeter lens range, I think the Tamron does come out on top. And then if you take the L lens from Canon, it is a little bit better than the Tamron, but maybe 3 or 4 times more expensive. So if you have the budget, the Canon L is pretty great also. If not, then the Tamron is very affordable and has really great image quality, and the stabilization is really great on it and all that. So if you'd like to see more about the Tamron lens, I have plenty of videos on my channel. I encourage you to look at them. But really, I'm very disappointed by this Canon 75 to 300 millimeter version 3 lens. I wish they would either update it or completely take it off from their lineup, because I find it's a lens that should be discontinued by now, and it doesn't hold up to today's standards. At least that's my opinion. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please leave them below. And if you like the video, please click like. If you'd like to see more, please click subscribe. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.